Hello, welcome to another episode of Xbox Infinite, episode 63. Guys, a little disclaimer before we get moving. Due to life circumstances, every second week we're going to be pre-recording Xbox Infinite until further notice, but hopefully not for too long. And now that we've got that out of the way, hopefully we have managed to make it into the chat, so we'll be hovering around saying good day to everyone in the chat. But let's get into the show. Hargeet, Chani, welcome back. Another week, another Xbox Infinite. How's your week been? What have you been playing? Everything, obviously. What have you been up to?
Yeah, I've just finished Grounded. Full achievement on it. But yeah, it took a long time. I probably poured about 150 hours into it. But yeah, that was a fun little game. And now I'm looking forward to getting into Hogwarts.
Oh, you found that second milk molar? Were you looking for the second one or third or something?
Yeah, there's 74, and you only need 72 to do all the upgrades. So we just figured, hey, we did all the upgrades. That means that's how many you need, right? Oh no, there's 2 extra, and so we have to go find those 2 extra. So
oof,
found them, and we're good to go. And yeah, we just finished it. So,
and
yeah.
And our other esteemed guest, first time appearance, JohnWolfx. Welcome to the show, man. It's great to have you with us. What have you been up to? What have you been playing? How's your week been?
Thanks, Riskit. Thanks for the intro, man. Umbra put out the bad signal, and I figured I'd answer, man. It's the first podcast I do in 2023. I'm a bit rusty right now, man, but work and life and stuff. But just been playing around with the Razer Edge device, man, that I picked up a couple of weeks ago. Been streaming around the house with it. Awesome device, amazing display on it. And I've been doing Moonlight from streaming from the PC and stuff like that. Just trying out various games, man. And it's been awesome, bro. I look forward to the topics today, and thank you all for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Welcome. And this is the part where I would normally introduce DoomCutie, but unfortunately she was not able to make it to the show this week. She is currently working. So I'll jump straight to Pete. Welcome back.
Not true. I'm here. What are you talking about?
Look. Welcome back, Pete. How's your week been? What have you been playing? Oh, I know you've been playing. What have you been up to? You've been playing that Ubisoft clone. Best Ubisoft game ever made.
Love Hogwarts Legacy. Can't wait to talk about it more. Yeah, I'm hooked on that game. It hooked me within the first 15 minutes. Look, I just want to say something. My Twitter account got hacked yesterday. Because I tried to contact literally everybody that was in my followers list. Now I'm banned from sending DMs. So I want to sincerely apologize to anyone that got a link from me. It wasn't from me. My account is hacked. Everything is now fixed, but everyone that's trying to reach out to me, I cannot respond to. So I've just put a broad tweet out there, just telling people what happened. Like I said, my sincerest apologies. But yeah, look, this is going to be a little bit of an interesting show. We've never pre-recorded a show for, we've been going for 63 episodes now. Interesting to see how it goes. Thank you, Hargeet, for joining us. Thank you, John. Let's do this.
Yeah. Pete, if you don't know, Pete's 94. So tech is something that he struggles with on a daily basis. We have sent him to a tech center to learn how to press buttons and not press buttons when you should. Anyway, moving on. It's good. It's cold. I had a lot of fun with Pete getting hacked last night. I really did. Umbra, how you doing? Welcome back. Another fantastic week. So many games right now. It's out of control. How's your week been? What have you been playing? What have you been up to?
So many games, man. I'm playing Hogwarts too. I'm still in there hitting people with stupefies, and I know it's not even in the game, but yeah, no, actually it is in the game. What I'm talking about, stupefies and Avada Kedavras. I'm loving it, man. I am about nearly 60 hours in. I'm level at 37.
Mm-hmm.
I'm engrossed with this world, man. It's so well done. Right now, it's currently my game of the year. That, man, and just a bunch of other games. I actually played a good amount of, I won't say a good amount. I played a bit of Atomic Heart, and it's beautiful too. And it just reinforces my thoughts, like I keep telling you all. Unreal Engine, it's the way. Hogwarts, Atomic Heart. I mean, so many others I can point to. It's just beautiful. But yeah, happy to have Hargeet and John joining us tonight.
Absolutely, Pete. You are putting through a little bit of static there. I have been playing Hogwarts Legacy. I didn't play Hogwarts Legacy or even Dead Space. I haven't quite finished it yet because when I landed, I'm fly in, fly out now to work, and when I landed at work, the TV was from the 1990s. If I had epilepsy, it would have killed me because it was flickering so badly. So I just stopped playing anything that was any good and sort of just kept on with Fortnite. But since I got back, I've been playing Hogwarts Legacy, loving that. Ubisoft brings another hit. Dead Space is still amazing. I'm loving that too. But we also found another little tiny game that went on sale for $3, down from 30. And I think in America it was 2. And it's called Shing. You can see it on screen right now. It is awesome. If you can think Turtle Shredders, but a little bit more nuanced to the game. You can the combat is a little bit more nuanced. You can sort of hit up, hit down, aim your attacks, drop bombs. And the bosses are cool to fight. Really good game. I'm really enjoying it. But sort of Xbox stopped dropping games on me right now because it's getting out of control. I literally cannot keep up. I haven't touched Atomic Heart yet. So I'm looking forward to picking that up. But I got to get through Dead Space, and then I got to get through Harry Potter. And then I'll get into Atomic Heart if it's still on the store. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But before we do, let's jump into PlayStation State of Play. I'm going to skip ahead to a topic because that was pretty recent. And I just sort of watched that. It's pretty fresh in my mind. Not impressed at all. I don't think there was a single first party that I would call AAA. There's a lot of focus on PSVR 2, and that was pretty middling. And I'm concerned about PSVR 2 because I don't know if you guys remember, but I was a little bit excited about PSVR 2 and what it could mean for gaming based on the tech. If you listen to Acer was pretty excited about it, and the Man Knows VR, that got me excited. But from what they're putting out, their output, it doesn't really excite me that much anymore. I wasn't excited for Resident Evil. I'm sure me and John are going to battle about that later on, but they've stuck to the source material, and RE4 was never my thing. Yeah, the whole thing was pretty disappointing. Umbra, what
were you not excited? You weren't excited for Crackdown 4 at the end there, man? Come on, man.
It just didn't do it. I don't even. I watched a little bit of the Suicide Squad, and then I just started skipping it because I'm like, meh. Wasn't doing it for me, which is, a bit of a shame considering that this is Rocksteady. Wolf, what were your thoughts of State of Play as a whole?
Well, I thought the show was, I guess you can say, decent for what it was. A lot of third-party showing for PlayStation. Of course, they're going to play to their strengths, right? They're always relying on third party and making, gamers think that all of these games are synonymous with PlayStation. That's their MO. So I didn't see, nothing first party, nor was I expecting anything first party, to be honest with you. But Resident Evil 4, I thought had a very strong showing, man. I'm very excited for that game. That is what I consider to be the greatest Resident Evil game of all time. In the green room, me and you were having a bit of a discussion how if there's no Resident Evil 4, there's no Gears of War, and that third person over the shoulder type game doesn't really exist, because Resident Evil 4 was the first of its kind, and it kind of pushed the genre forward in that end. And I think that it's an all-time classic. There's so
John, let's stay on that for a few more seconds because we can't let that go.
Sure. Yeah, let's do it.
So listen, I gotta ask live on air. Mm-hmm. How old are you?
I just turned 40, so I did play Resident Evil 4 as it released on the GameCube. Played it with the Wavebird for all those out there that remember. Right. Dude, the change of the action style, right, of the game. When it released on GameCube, it was unlike anything that had been released before. So, and that's why I say that it really changed the game.
So look, I guess if it wasn't an RE4 game, wasn't a Resident Evil game, sorry, then I could have got down with it. But I remember being excited. I remember playing 3, and I was like, "Wicked, we're going to follow on from 3 with what happened in that one." I was down, right. Got the game, booted up the game, and I was like, "Man, what is this? This isn't Resident Evil." So from my perspective, I never finished Resident Evil 4. I think I played an hour, and I was like, nah, this isn't Resident Evil.
I was balls deep in Resident Evil 4, man. I even bought that chainsaw controller when it came out for the PS2. I absolutely loved it, man. So it was, to me, it was revolutionary. I enjoyed that game, and it has sentimental value, you know. So I'm really hyped on it. Street Fighter 6 had a strong showing with Zangief. That new character, I don't know her name. The looks a little Native American-ish. I'm not too sure. And then, dude, I don't know about you guys, but Cammy was looking pretty good. You know what I'm saying? That model that they
Cammy
have
was
for
looking
Cammy.
tasty.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. I mean,
if
they,
there's
that
one thing
got
I got to point out, John, it's like our Japanese developers. I love that they don't shy away from actually giving the gamers cheesecake. You know,
I
here
was
in
thinking
America,
the
everybody
same
has to
thing.
be PC. Yeah, we get so PC over
Yeah,
here. Oh, they have to
yeah,
be fully clothed in armor. Japan doesn't play that. You're going to see
yeah.
everything.
I was watching the trailer at work, right? And I'm looking behind me just in case anybody was looking when Cammy was on screen. I'm like, oh shit, I don't want them to think I'm a pervert or anything like that, you know. But yeah, man. And to the to end it, Suicide Squad. I've seen various tweets about it, different minds about it. The Arkham games, I hold those games to high standard. All of them, even Arkham Origins. So hearing them say that this game takes place in Arkham 5 years after Arkham Knight and stuff like that, I gotta see how that plays out. But the gameplay that they did show did look like a lot of fun. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm a little torn, and I did see like it looked nice and colorful, probably a little too colorful, and I think because of that, it also made the game feel like, or to me at least, feel like it was way detached from the Arkham Knight and Arkham game series.
Mhm.
It
Yep.
had nothing close to it outside of maybe the neon signs and such, I guess. I do appreciate how colorful it looks, how nice it looks. It looks pretty sharp. But my issue with it, I don't know how to quite explain it, but I like you, I hold Rocksteady to a high level of standards. So for me, and I hear a lot of people, like you said, pointing out that calling it like Crackdown 4. It
Yeah.
kind of did give you those vibes, and I guess that's what
Hmm.
put me off on it. And I say this as a fan of Crackdown, but to me, I don't know, man, it just didn't land with me. And I love Rocksteady, one of my favorite developers. I still want
Well,
Xbox to actively get, but it just didn't do it for me. I don't know what it was.
for me, and I'll finish here so that everybody else can chime in. Um, the problem with a game like this, guys, is that you're playing as the characters that you least want to be in the game. You want to be the Flash, you want to be Batman, you want to be Superman. So they
True.
have a very tough challenge ahead of them of selling us on these characters, on the way that they kind of interact with each other, and making us they need to pull kind of like a Guardians of the Galaxy, where we kind of fell in love with the characters rather quickly. And if they don't do that by at least the second chapter, I can see a lot of people being turned away.
Yeah. As far as the other games shown, though, Street Fighter 6 actually did look really good to me. Like you said, with Cammy, with Zangief doing his thing, who is, to me, I think is the game version of casual Pete and Risk and
Yeah.
and Lily. Uh, I thought that looks pretty good, actually. I'm a bit more sold on that. I already was down for it, but it looks really, really polished. It looks really solid.
It
Resident,
does. It does. But
yeah,
what do you think about? I don't know. It's all about feel when it comes to fighting games, right?
it is.
And
Yeah,
it looks
I
like
thought it was
it's got a
somewhat
possibility to be
slowish, I
yeah,
will say.
clunky. Yeah, it looks like it might be a little clunky or slowish. Yeah, like you say.
Yeah, it seems a little slow. And I said this before. I saw a previous clip, and I was like, shouldn't they be a bit faster? But Capcom has a history of that, where they'll have the characters moving away, but then they'll introduce the Turbo Edition, right, or or the Super or whatever it might be
Oh
edition.
yeah.
So
We're getting like
I'm
three different
almost
versions of this game for sure.
exactly. So I'm half expecting like a remix or something to have it faster or something later on. I'm almost certain of it. Uh, yeah, Resident Evil 4. I'm a little mixed on it, but I did like it overall. I think that for whatever reason, it doesn't look as pretty as Resident Evil 2 and 3, the remakes.
Mm,
To
okay.
me, it looks good. It just doesn't look as good, and I think
Yeah.
it's because of the style of the play that you have to play in. Maybe it kind of, I don't know, it diminished some things. I mean, still looks great though. So I guess it's not saying too much negative there. I still liked it. To me, those are the two highlights of the show: Street Fighter 6 and Resident Evil 4. Uh, and everything else did nothing for me. I'm gonna be honest.
I know
don't play Destiny.
Riskit loved that Chia. That Chia game is right up Riskit's alley.
Chia.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's I was pretty excited about that PS Plus fodder.
Ooh.
Oof.
But like
Messy.
for me also, just to say, so if I have to rate the show out of a 10 rating, the show for me was a 4 out of 10. And the 4 largely comes from third party. First party in VR doesn't do anything for me that was shown.
Hmm.
I have no interest in VR. So that did nothing for me. And even the ones they showed was like, eh. So, and I was actually talking with Kay Asante after the showcase, and he is a fan of VR. He gave it a 5 out of 10. So it's not just me hating on the show or something like that. He actually enjoys VR, and he didn't like it. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I sort of man, I Suicide Squad didn't capture my interest at all. And then none of the VR did, so there wasn't a whole lot sort of there for me. And everyone knows now how I feel about Resident Evil 4. So I was not just being a bot. Like it sounds like I'm being a bot, but I'm really not. I was a little disappointed. I was hoping to see something first party. Hargeet, was there anything that sort of captured your interest? I mean, is there anything there? I think for me,
I mean, as far as games, like, look, they did show Lightfall, which is now a first-party title. I don't know if they're gonna make it into a Destiny meets Sad Dad walking simulator, but hopefully they don't do that, and you can still jump. But
messy.
but that looked okay. That looked okay. And then Chia looked like it could be interesting too. It's a little adventure game, right? I don't know if that's coming to other platforms at some point, but it is coming day and date, right? It's coming to PS Plus Extra.
It is day and
That's
date.
cool.
Yep. Straight
Yeah.
into the fodder plus.
The other one that was kind of odd is they already announced this game, Goodbye Volcano High, and looking at the gameplay, it seems like a slight take on Hi-Fi Rush, like kind of similar in that you're
I
doing
thought that
musical
too.
things,
Mhm.
right?
I was thinking
Yeah.
the same
Yeah.
thing, Hargeet.
Yeah,
Yep,
so-
the style is
So,
about the same.
Maybe that's their take on it. But, we'll see how it goes, right? Hi-Fi Rush came out and it was a surprise hit, right? So maybe that'll be pretty good. I don't know, but that seemed to be something that was interesting. The other games like Street Fighter, I haven't really played too much of 4 or 5, but 1, 2, 2 I played a hell of a lot, and 3 I played a little bit. This does look interesting though. It's different, right? It is
Yeah.
kind of an interesting twist. So it could be an interesting game to pick up. So that does have some interest. Suicide Squad, well, I can't really get into it, but I might have had some access to that, and I guess so. I have some thoughts, but I guess I can't really divulge too much because of NDAs.
Right.
But I think some of the other things that were interesting to me is just the general announcements of what's coming to PlayStation Plus. Battlefield 2042, Minecraft Dungeons is coming to March. PS Plus, the essential tier. That's interesting. So somehow Microsoft and Sony are talking.
Well, let's talk about that a little
That's an
bit.
interesting thought.
Let's talk.
And on top of that, Riskit, I'll add another one, is that Ghostwire Tokyo is in fact getting into PS Plus Extra, as it should, because they have to put it on their subscription service to be able to get into Game Pass. Right. So that's coming. That's pretty cool. So there's some talks somehow between Sony and Microsoft. But go ahead.
Correction, guys, for accuracy, there is one first-party title, and that's Destiny 2 Lightfall, I guess you can say.
Yeah, that's what I said.
I
Like,
mean,
yeah. Destiny 2 is
so-
the first party now.
Yeah.
So, and hopefully they don't make it into a non-jumping sad dad walking simulator.
Are we gonna?
But anyway,
Is it? I mean, is it though? Is it? I mean, yeah, it is. I mean, but is it? But it's not. But it is. But it's not.
Yeah, it's one of those.
So, Hargeet,
Yeah,
do you think
it's
that
weird.
they were in talks with Microsoft before this to get that game into, to get Minecraft Dungeons into PS Plus? Or do you think this was a recent talk? Like, are Sony and Microsoft still talking, discussing games? Or was this done, pre all these court hearings and things like that?
that is an interesting question. I mean, to do these things, it usually isn't last minute, right? So, they have to line up a release date and then when it's going to go in, right? So, but in this case, this is an old game, right? So, I mean, yeah, I don't know. It is possible this is something they just cooked up now, right? Because of the whole controversy of them not
Well,
putting
it
games on.
sort of makes sense
But-
though, right? Because there's also a bit of talk of like Microsoft's, this is sort of one of the PlayStation's ridiculous contentions that obviously Microsoft have to seriously address, which is stupidity. But the contention is that, hey, Microsoft's going to take these games away, they're going to become exclusive, and
Yeah.
Microsoft is not going to put these games on PlayStation.
Yeah, didn't they do something with Skyrim last month or something? I thought that went into their service, something like that, right?
Oh, Bethesda games have lived regularly on PS Plus, and it could be because of old contracts and stuff like that. But one thing that's interesting about this development, right, is that if I was on Microsoft's camp and Brad Smith, I mean, he handled the other day perfectly, but this is just another example that they can use, right? Where they can say, look, they're just as reason as this month or next month, they have one of our games on their service. So it just goes to show you once again
Several months,
that-
right? They've been doing this,
Cor-
so several months
right.
they have Xbox games in their
That would be
service.
hilarious, by the way, if they did that. I'm like, oh, hey, look.
They should because that's
Right.
that's the Jim Ryan MO to
Yeah.
use what has recently been in the headlines
Destroying
to kinda,
everything, right?
right,
All
to
the
kind of go
narratives.
against exactly.
So,
Yeah.
so then from a PlayStation sort of point of view, and I'm going to go to Pete on State of Play in a minute, but from a PlayStation point of view, this is probably not a clever thing. So you would have to think, and I wouldn't think PlayStation's never been stupid, I think, as a company. So you would have to think that this is probably an existing contract, right? That you could surmise this. Or the other way to go, I think, which is Hargeet was alluding to, is it possible that they've sort of reached an agreement in the background and they're sort of coming to terms? Hargeet, what do you think?
I don't think that's the case. I think this is just the team that handles PS Plus is still talking to all publishers, and Microsoft, Xbox said, "Hey, do you want to put these games in?" And they're like, "Yeah, absolutely." So I think that's all it is.
They got a call from Jim.
I don't think Jim Ryan is going to deal unless he's required to. That's just my read on where they are as far as the regulatory approval stuff. They're gonna stick to their guns. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But at some point, the governments will say, you need to do something, or you're not going to get this. So they need to come to some terms.
Well, definitely, and we're going to get to that in a minute. But Pete, look, you didn't get much of a chance to check out the State of Play, sorry. But I'm hoping that you've seen a little bit. Was there anything in there that sort of interested you?
Yeah, so I haven't watched the State of Play in its entirety, so I don't want to give it a score, but I looked at the trailers that interest me. Baldur's Gate 3 looks amazing. I've been waiting for that game for a while. We got a release date for it, August 31st. That's great to me. Don't know if people will still be playing Diablo. They're pretty close to each other, very similar type of games, so I'm really interested to see how that goes. Then I watched Street Fighter 6, and I'm not a big fighting game fan. I haven't really played fighting games since Killer Instinct. I played it in the Super Nintendo days, and then when Microsoft brought it back, I played a little bit of it then. And then I played a little bit of Injustice 2 recently. But Street Fighter was one of the games that I played in the arcade, back in the day. So it looked really, really good. The new character Lily looked really cool. Zangief, a character that I played back in the day, looked really cool, and Cammy looks stunningly beautiful. Then, look, I have been a little bit hesitant about Suicide Squad since its initial showing. The only thing that gives me hope with that game is it's made by Rocksteady. I mean, those Arkham games are perfection when it comes to action adventure games. I don't think anyone does them better. They really need a 60 FPS boost. Those games, you can go back now. They still look stunning. They still play stunning. They're just great fun to play. And Resident Evil 4, I disagree, Riskit. I mean, coming off Resident Evil 2 and 3, which I think are absolutely the pinnacle of how remakes are meant to be done. I don't see how this can be, any worse than that. They were amazingly done remakes. I enjoyed them thoroughly. I did know the story, but that didn't really matter because it was just a whole new experience for me. And I think out of all the Resident Evil games, 4 is my favorite. I absolutely, love
I
that
like
game.
this
So
guy.
yeah, I can't wait to get into it. The PSVR 2 stuff, I haven't seen much. I've been trying to flick through it now in the background.
Well, hang on. That's an interesting take, considering and just knowing your taste, having the conversations that we've had in the past, and Dead Space 3 being your weakest in the series and one that you didn't really like because it removed the horror element from Dead Space, which was heavy in 1 and 2. And then that was my issue. And this is, conversely, I'm the opposite. So like I really like 3. I like the co-op aspect and I didn't mind the horror being removed, but I did with Resident Evil because Resident Evil to me was like a series that was steeped in horror and then it just became this action sort of, I wouldn't even say horror, just a full action game over the shoulder thing. So sort of interesting there that we both have opposite opinions of both games for the very same reasons.
Evil 4 still has a lot of horror vibe in it. I mean, the micromanagement of the bullets and, it creates tension because you're always running out of bullets. You're always looking over your shoulder. That very, very slow, methodical gameplay really raises that tension level.
But they removed that. They removed that in Resident Evil 4. It wasn't that much of a grind to like look after your inventory. Like that was one of the things in 1, 2, and 3 that made them like stressful. Whereas I don't think 4 really did that.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. It's just that Resident Evil 4. I still remember like just that village, that sequence right in the beginning. You got the dude with the chainsaw following you. Some of the most tense moments ever, dude. Honestly. And even though that, they were pretty generous with the inventory. I'll give you that. They did kind of they did kind of shift over. So you're not wrong, Riskit, with what you're saying. But at the same time, there was just so much coming at you that it kind of made up for what they were giving you. If that kind of makes sense.
4 didn't do it for me, but part 6 was horrible. Part 6 was
that's dog
part
shit,
6
dude.
was like, nah, like they went way too far
with
that one.
Yeah.
I have a soft spot for 5, but I know people don't particularly like it, but
too.
it's got a very big soft spot for me. I was going to get a tattoo of the I won't actually say, but from 6. From 5,
Shiva. Yeah, Shiva. Yeah.
Well, she would do this
all that
move
brown
where
sugar.
she would do a roundhouse kick to the face.
I remember that.
Yeah, gotta be like Dead or Alive commercial. She kicked high.
The first thing I think of with Resident Evil 5, believe it or not, is that red Xbox 360 special edition. I don't know why. That's like the first thing that comes to my head.
Speaking of tattoos, most people don't know that I have a tattoo of Elmer Fudd on my butt cheek.
Very quiet.
No, he says I know you're. He says I know you're in there, Rabbit. Anyway. I don't really understand. Should we move on to the next topic? I think we should. Before we do, guys, thank you for watching. We know it's a bit of a different thing that we're pre-recording. We will try to be in the chat and catch up with you guys. But if you are liking the show, please hit the like button. If you are new here, please hit the subscribe button as we move into the next topic, which is obviously going to be the big one for the week, right? Nintendo and Nvidia have signed a 10-year deal to bring not only COD, but Xbox games to their platforms. So this is very interesting, and there's a little bit of nuance between both the deals from what we know. Obviously, we don't have the deals written in front of us, but what we do know about Nvidia is a cloud streaming platform where you do have to buy the games. And they have stated that you will have to buy these Microsoft games. So that's very interesting. And obviously the same will be obviously true for Nintendo. I don't know how I feel about this on a personal level. I sort of read it, and it's hard to let go of exclusivity. And I'll tell you why. Because I think, obviously at heart, I have bias. And this generation seemed like that generation where Xbox was really going to catch up. They were going to have these exclusives. You know, it was going to be a big thing. And look, like it was good because Xbox One was a terrible generation. And we had it held over us for most of the generation that really Xbox had no games. And PlayStation obviously had all the big, and they did make fantastic exclusives. And so I think on a personal level, my primate brain is like, no, you're sort of taking away my gotcha. But from an analytical point of view, I was looking at this, and it's hard to sort of mull this all over. It's a lot to take in. I think that this might be the first step in that direction of what really Microsoft has been trying to do, which is put their platform, their games everywhere, and not make it a plastic box thing. Make it a sort of a software, like a Sega thing, but in a different way. And I know I'm going to cop flack for saying it's sort of like a Sega thing. But I mean, I'm still mulling this over personally in my head. And Hargeet, I sort of wanted to ask your opinion on this. It's sort of a strange thing to see a platform holder, especially a console platform holder, pivot in this way. And there's a lot that could be happening in the near future. What do you think this means overall?
So there's a couple of things here. First, there was an interview where he talked about it. It wasn't, that it's all Xbox games. They already have a large library of games on Switch. And they're going to continue to support that, and on a per case basis, they'll think about what they want to do with their games. One of the things that's going to happen here, look, when Sony buys something, they're buying studios. When Microsoft buys, they're buying publishers, and at that scale, they do have to be a little cognizant of the fact that they're taking away a lot, right? And they're just looking ahead because they said they were going to do more of these, right? If they're going to do more of these things, they kind of need to establish that certain things that have had affinity to platforms, they kind of have to let them be there, right? So they're gonna keep certain things open, like they're saying with Call of Duty. You might find Diablo is the same thing, that they're gonna let that stay open. But we'll see, right? So it's open to them. The only game that everybody's complaining, Sony is complaining about is Call of Duty, but they may make it a bit more than that, right? It wasn't intended to say, hey, Halo Infinite is now coming to Switch. That's not the intent, but they are going to be more open with some of these publisher acquisitions they're doing, and saying that some of these things will stay. We're not going to take that away from the platform. And Matt Booty said that too. I don't know if it was in the context of FanFest when I was there, or afterwards in an interview. I think it was in an interview that they have to be careful with that when they're getting these things. That there is an affinity for some of these games to stay on platforms, and they're not going to take it away, right? So they have to be, cognizant of that. Like this is not just we take it and we own it and it's ours and everybody else can go away. They are taking a large chunk of the game industry, right? So they understand that. So they have to play this. That is what it is. Part of it is Microsoft being Microsoft, right? We're looking at this from a very closed ecosystem, Sony, Nintendo, Sega mindset. Right, we're not looking at it from a Microsoft mindset. Microsoft is in, co-opetition with pretty much everyone. Right, they're in competition in many sectors, but in those sectors, they're also cooperating with those people because they buy their stuff. Right, Microsoft is like everybody's desktop. It's everybody's office. It's it's cloud data centers. It's it's a lot of stuff that people use. Right, all the game developers are making their games on Windows. Right, even Sony, they buy Windows to make their games. It's part and parcel of Microsoft. They're used to this, right? Apple has Microsoft stuff. Google has Microsoft stuff. It is what it is. Even though the big conglomerates that hate them, right? It doesn't matter. They still have contracts with Microsoft. It's just the way it is, right?
They're customers.
They're customers, they're partners, and they're competitors, right? And this is just the way it goes. Mm-hmm. And so in a Microsoft world, they're looking for engagement, right? They're going to say, hey, best to run our software on Windows. We're going to make it work, but it is still going to be available everywhere else, right? We're not going to lock it down. You can run SQL Server on Linux. You can run Office on Mac. We don't care. That's fine. It'll work best on our system. Please use our OS. It has these advantages, right? They're going to do the same thing here. The key advantage is Game Pass. Game Pass will be
There you
locked to Xbox, and Game Pass will be that value statement that says, hey, if you want to stay on your platform, you're on Nintendo, you're on PlayStation, you're using Nvidia, you're using Steam, we don't care. Fine, buy our games, no problem, right? However, if you want the value, you can come to our PC store and get Game Pass. You can come to our console and get Game Pass, right? This is going to be their value statement, right? And it's a different like mindset going into gaming now that will kind of change the way the console is. But this is coming no matter what.
I think xCloud is a perfect example of what you're talking about. So
Exactly. Like just open it up, right?
Sony are paying to use the xCloud service because it's one of the best services that are out there.
Yeah, and on top of that, they just had the deal with Nvidia, right? So the biggest, outside of xCloud, the biggest cloud provider for gaming. Maybe you could say some of that is now. I don't know what the numbers are with the conversion of PSNow into PS Plus Extra and what's the other one? Premium Extra, whatever they have, the higher tier. If that has increased their subscribers, that could be a good competitor. I don't know where they are yet, but so that could be taking market share. But right now it's Nvidia and Microsoft with Stadia pulling out. Right, Luna's very small at this point. Maybe it'll go somewhere. Yeah, it's just not gaining market share, even though it's a good service. But it just doesn't seem.
No, but on Luna, they just
excellent service as well.
They just removed, I think it was 30 games from Luna that leave Luna this month, and they've added one. So
Amazon haven't put their muscle behind it because they don't believe it.
They really haven't. They really haven't.
You know what
They're
I'm saying?
trying to
just like Google,
step at a time, right? Which is good, right? Google decided to try their way, and you weren't buying games that you could keep, and it was just a weird model, and you had to buy full price games for games that were years old, right? I don't know. It just never really resonated. But anyway, so
of streaming right there with full price games years later, something.
Except Nintendo has stuff you want, so they actually sell, right? So that was the problem, and when Google was trying to get to their level of having a first party stable of games, but the problem is that that's very hard to do from scratch, right? They really needed to do what Microsoft's doing. Let's go buy Bethesda. Let's go buy ABK. Right? You have to have something that people want. Establishing all new, it's just tough to do. But either way, back to the Microsoft thing. I don't see this being like an en masse, hey, all Xbox games are now coming day and date on Nintendo platform. This is mostly the games that are already there, your Minecrafts, like Ori, stuff like that they already have out there, right? They're going to keep those things going, and on case by case, they'll say, hey, this game, it seems to resonate with that gaming segment or audience. Let's go ahead and put that there as well, right? It might work better in a portable console. Fair enough. So that they'll make those judgments. I think that's all they're saying. The interview was it wasn't very definitive, but that's kind of how he was phrasing things, where it was, hey, this is really just, we have a stable of games already on the Nintendo platform, and we will continue to support that, and we will definitely be putting Call of Duty there. That's kind of what he was saying.
And it could be the beginning of a long-term relationship here, where Microsoft obviously they're incentivized to offer Call of Duty to Nintendo to kind of win over their case. But who knows where this can lead down the line, right? Just because Microsoft, they would love to put Game Pass on any screen that they can, including the Switch and the Switch successor down the road. Now, many will say, yeah, but that kind of counteracts Nintendo's business model. Why would they cut into their own profits? But we really don't know how the money works on that side, right? So that's something that, we both sides can argue all day. But the thing is that even with the Switch right now, right? Let's say that Call of Duty is a success for Nintendo, and they see a lot of revenue and it generates a lot of income for them. Who's to say that they don't say, hey, you know what? Let's entertain the idea of Xbox games, but only first-party games through the cloud. Switch owners can subscribe to Game Pass, and they can stream Halo Infinite and whatever titles we don't have on our store. That's something that I think that they can definitely entertain. And for Nvidia, right? Look, let's be real. If Microsoft could have let this deal pass and not given up anything, they would have done that, obviously. But because of all the pushback, I think they had to kind of reevaluate things and look at the big picture. and say, okay, we're making a $70 billion investment. We can understand how this is being seen. We can understand how this is being seen as a negative thing. So how do we make the best of it now, and how do we make the most money from it, right? Giving Nvidia Xbox titles, it does enrich their service. I'm a subscriber to Nvidia GeForce, so I'm super excited for it. But at the same time, it doesn't really eat away at Xbox's, I guess you can say, at the customers that they will potentially
I
get
agree.
overall,
It actually
because it's just a different,
reinforces it
it's a
actually.
different clientele.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a different clientele. You know what I'm saying? So they really don't eat at each other market that much, somewhat. But I mean, all those numbers again
If
can be
anything, John, if anything, I would say it actually bolsters GeForce a bit because you have to be, I believe, a subscriber of GeForce to actually even still buy that and play those games over it, right?
right. The way that it works is that, well, GeForce right now through the GeForce app, if you have it installed on your computer, they let you stream to whatever device has Moonlight installed, for example, right? Nvidia put out a press conference. I think not a press conference. They put something on their website, I think a month ago or something, saying that that's coming to an end. The reason that they're doing that and that they're going to update the GeForce Now app and take that away is because they're trying to push people to this GeForce service, right? Well, when GeForce Now first launched, any title that you owned that was in your library on Steam, I think on Ubisoft Connect and Epic Game Store, it just showed up magically. You had God of War in there. You had a bunch of titles that then when the publishers kind of took notice of it, they're like, hey, wait a minute, we're not getting paid for that. And then that's when the pushback started. So Nvidia had to start, I guess, signing contracts and stuff with the publishers directly, which that took away a huge chunk of titles from them because basically all your heavy hitters were gone from there. Okay, so deals like this, they do favor Nvidia, and I do see how Microsoft they really benefited of Nvidia's need here to bolster their service, and they said, shit, you know what? This is gonna make us look good for our case, right? Let's just give it up. I mean, it is what it is. Let's look at let's look at the big
I
picture.
don't know if this was already a thing that Microsoft had planned. Now, Phil Spencer copped a lot of flack, I think, when the Bethesda deal went through, because a lot of those games were going to be going first party, and they said they were going to be exclusive. I think Starfield is the biggest case in point when it comes to that. And if you listen to Phil Spencer talking about how they were going to be doing games going forward, they were talking about how they wanted them to be played on more platforms. And a lot of people thought when that deal went through that Starfield would be on everything. Now, I understand that Nvidia and Nintendo are taking a bit of an advantage of the situation now because Microsoft are really trying to push this court case through. They're really trying to get into the public eye, looking like the good guy. But I don't know if this wasn't their business model all along, that they really did want to put their games on more platforms, have their games available
I
to more
agree.
people at
Yeah,
more
I mean,
times.
I
And this
they
kind
had
of
to
agree.
be
just
out with that.
accelerated that process.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's
I
their MO.
agree.
It's like Hargeet was explaining. It's their MO. Windows is on everything. So it's not it's not out of the realm of possibility, right? And here's another thing, Riskit, that for what you said early on. I my mind frame was kind of like yours up to maybe 2 or 3 years ago, where I was just used to the way things were, right? That you bought a PlayStation for their titles, an Xbox for their titles, and Nintendo, and etc., right? The landscape, brother, has completely shifted. This is just we're in a different time now. The age of exclusivity. Believe me, I'm the first one that will admit, if you show me an exclusive title on a console, I will buy your console. I will drop that money every single time. So I'm in that market. But that's not the market that I think that these companies are eyeballing. They know they got us already, right? Doesn't matter what they do, doesn't matter what they release. We're gonna drop down that money when that new system releases. They're looking to expand that. How can we get that casual audience that it always needs to be there for the Call of Duty,
How
for the
can they get to
Maddens?
how can they get to 2 billion gamers
It,
specifically
Yeah,
ex-
like they
3
said?
billion. Yeah, that's the number they've been
exactly.
running. Yeah,
Yep.
So
running towards 3
so
billion. Yeah.
So the one thing that I really like that Hargeet said, Riskit, that can kind of help, I guess, get over that hump in that mentality, I guess, is that it, as an Xbox owner, what advantages do you have, right? And that's Game Pass. It's knowing that your subscription is going to get you all the bells and whistles. Whereas if I'm a PlayStation customer, Microsoft is telling me, hey, you prefer PlayStation, you prefer, their ecosystem, go right ahead, but you're going to pay us $69.99 per pop, and we're going to keep on hitting you over the head with this until something's got to give, right? Until you see, hey, what am I doing here? Like do I really like the ecosystem that much to just be throwing my wallet at things, or am I enticed to give Xbox a try and jump into their ecosystem? Now more than ever, I'm sure that this generation, Xbox has completely turned it around where they have made people think twice about what console they want to purchase next.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting thought, Umbra. I will go to you for more on this, but it's an interesting thought as well that they did mention only a couple of days ago that we had this whole cannibalizing sales thing. And I think if you throw it over to Nvidia, you're selling your games there. So if they're selling their games elsewhere, they're not cannibalizing. They might be cannibalizing sales within their own console or within their own ecosystem, sure. But outside of that, they're making more money off those sales out of other ecosystems. Umbra, sorry to cut you off.
You're good, brother. You're absolutely right. And the thing is like Pete said, and I said this the other day, I was saying the exact same thing. I at first was like, and I think all of us really at first were like, they're doing this to Microsoft, and your first knee-jerk reaction is, this is unfair, because it is kind of unfair. And I hate to say that, being some $1 trillion corporation, but the way that the FTC is going about things, clearly they don't have a legal standing. So your first reaction is, being a fan of the platform and gaming on it as we do and talking about it as we do, is to be like, that's not cool what they're doing to Microsoft. They're forcing them to put their games here and there. But after I gave it thought, I'm like, no, this is what Microsoft wanted to do, isn't it? So yeah, Pete, I'm with you on that 100%. This is exactly what they wanted to do. It seems like a hand was forced, but I think they're just playing chess, right? At this point, this seems like this is exactly what they intended fully, and it just looks like they acquiesced to the demands of the regulators to put these games elsewhere. They wanted Nintendo. We knew they wanted Nintendo. We knew this for years now. I mean, we all saw Phil's shelf and cabinet. We saw Sarah Bond's cabinet and shelf where they had the Nintendo Switch displayed proudly. So we know that they wanted to work something out with them. We know that they were working with Nintendo to get the Golden Eye over here and things like that. And who knows where that relationship can go with other games that, are tied between the two because of Rare. So maybe this relationship will actually get us the Banjo and Kazooies and such out of that. Who knows? Maybe they'll have, what I mean? Maybe they'll have Nintendo work on it, maybe, and put it on both platforms. Who knows, right? So all of this is actually playing into what Microsoft forecasted and wanted to do, in my honest opinion. And I think it's just a stroke of genius, because again, it not only does it bolster them, Riskit, like you pointed out, that it doesn't really hurt them outside, like, because if you're an Xbox platform holder and a Game Pass user, like John said, you're not being hurt by this. And the thought is, well, it's our games and it shouldn't be elsewhere, it should be exclusive. I think we're well past that mindset now. Most of us are, at least mostly past that. I think it's only a few games where we would be like, nah, that's sacrilege. If you took Halo, that's if you took Gears, and put them over there on other platforms, then we'll probably be like on Nintendo and PlayStation. What I mean,
Sony aren't definitely not past it.
Oh,
That's
no,
their
not at all.
No, for sure. Yeah. I mean,
absolutely.
that's their whole business model, and Sony just operates on a different level. They're very hardware centric because they need a way. They need a way to get you into their ecosystem, into their storefront, to make that money off of you. On the long run.
They have the traditional set. That's what it is.
Exactly, and not to mention that they have a iron grip on in gaming. They really do.
They
As
do.
much as they do all their little dirty tactics, and we all call them out for their bullshit.
Yep.
They do have that iron grip on it. And the thing is that at the end of the day, Xbox, I think, and Phil Spencer and company, they had to sell the brand to Satya, and I think that they all looked at each other, being real. This is the way you get better in life, and in everything you do, you need to be real, and you need to say, going head to head against Sony and the PlayStation brand, we're gonna lose every single time. So not only are we gonna lose in the market because there's just PlayStation has a stronger grip on the brand, right, and recognition in gaming, but also what it does for first party deals. Who's to say that when Microsoft goes into an office, yes, they do have the most money, right, out of any company, that's fine. They have more money than PlayStation, but who's to say that these developers don't charge them double? Because they're like, hey, I'm sorry, we're going to sell more games on PlayStation, and then it's not cost effective for Xbox to just put that title as a first party title. Again, all hypotheticals. All hypotheticals. We don't know any of this stuff because we don't see the backroom deals. But at the same time, I can kind of see where Xbox look to expand. And you know what? Phil said, you know what? I want that PlayStation gamer to be a customer of mine also.
Yeah, and we can. Everything that they're doing points towards that. I think, Riskit, you said last week when we were talking about the lack of marketing when it comes to Xbox games, but they're only marketing Game Pass. This points to that direction as well. Now, I do think this court case maybe accelerated the process, but I think you're right, John. I think that this was their plan all along. They are playing the long game, Umbra. They are playing a game of chess, and I think it's a stroke of genius.
Well,
and kudos to Microsoft.
I think Microsoft's definitely playing chess while PlayStation's playing checkers. And I think we're all sort of in agreement around this and something that sort of adds a little bit of weight to what we're saying here. And before I go on sort of to the next topic within this topic is please hit the like button and subscribe. If you guys are new here, if you're loving the show, hit that like button, share it out. We go live normally at 8 p.m. EST, but this one's a pre-record and the next one will be live. But what's his name? Brad.
Still expect you all to be in the chat, by the way.
We'll be watching. Brad Smith had a lot to say. So this is Microsoft's, I believe, GM. Is that right, Hargeet? I could be wrong there, but he's also their lead lawyer. And his exact words, I believe, were, do you want to kill a deal and cement Sony's position and its 80% market share? That's talking about in Europe where they hold a bit of they really do hold a stranglehold. We know that it's different in the US. The US is a little bit more of an even keel, but it's still not even. PlayStation definitely has the lion's share of the market. And Smith also directed a question to Sony following on from that. It's just, or do you want to let the future go forward with behavioral guardrails and remedies and bring this title to 150 million more people? He also made another statement directly to Sony. He says, I walk around with an envelope that contains the definitive agreement that we sent to Sony 2 days before Christmas. I'm ready to sign it anytime. He also added that he'd be happy to make changes either with a pen or on Microsoft Office. A bit of a shameless plug.
And correction, Riskit. Yep, and correction, Riskit. His official title is Certified G. Just so that you know.
Yeah,
he's
look,
vice chair and president, but John hit it on the head. That surprised me, just how like him, and if you've been paying attention at all as far as how these execs have been handling things. We're so used to this stuffy, super PC proper, structure or responses when it comes to these people like that. But Brad Smith and Lulu, Chang Mersavi, they are cold-blooded when it comes to actually saying what it is. I think Brad is a little more restricted, but Lulu, goodness.
Oh.
Yeah,
she's hilarious.
Lulu is literally the Doom Slayer. That's who the Doom Slayer is.
Yeah, I found it kind of odd because a lot sort of happened around Brad Smith's comments, and as well as Lulu coming out. She's been pretty outspoken, but the media have sort of come out and slayed this, or tried to slay this sort of EU conference, basically labeling it childish from all the articles that I've read.
Right.
Yeah, and some of them are just flat out bias. I mean, the bias in these articles are absolutely ridiculous. And I'm not going to read from them verbatim, but basically they're saying that Microsoft's putting on a dog and pony show and being immature.
Isn't that the other side's thing?
It's nuts.
Ponies?
Yeah, it's nuts. It's what's really nuts about it is a lot of the comparisons when you look at the things that they've said earlier and then the things that they've followed up with. Yeah, it's I don't know. I've spoken on bias many times in the media. I think it's sort of to a point where, and I did tag one of the guys who wrote the article, I think from gamingindustry.biz, and said the dude he needs some integrity classes because he completely lacks any kind of integrity. When it's one way, if it's Sony doing this, he's backing it. If it's Microsoft doing it, he's not.
Absolutely.
This sort of needs to stop. I'm really sick of it. I've spoken on it ad nauseum. Umbra, I know you had a lot to, you were sort of watching this whole thing unfold. How did you feel about seeing, again, the media bias sort of rear its ugly head? I mean, Eurogamer is another one that stepped in and said, Google and Nvidia expressed concerns to the US. And then they put out another article when Nvidia jumped on board and said, with Sony on board, Microsoft's dual announcements felt like a sandwich without the filling. Basically pointing out, this is from Tom Phillips, basically pointing out that without Sony, it's vapid. How did you feel about this media bias again permeating the industry?
It's crazy, like how the curtain, so to speak, is unveiled and revealing these people left and right. That's the funniest thing. We've talked about it, and Xbox gamers have been told that we have this bit of victim mentality. But I think it's because we're constantly victimized. And the reason I say that is because we will point out and say, these guys are biased against Xbox. They are pro Sony in everything they do. They just don't come out and say it. And constantly we're reminded of that once we see these articles. And no, it doesn't matter if it's Kotaku. It doesn't matter if it's Eurogamer, like you pointed out. It doesn't matter if it's Tweaktown. It doesn't matter if it's what's the one with Jason Schreier? Bloomberg. It doesn't matter what. You will see a lot of negativity and unduly negativity when
All
it concerns
trash, man.
Xbox. Yeah,
All
typically you'll
trash.
see that. And I'm all for them giving them the proper smoke if Microsoft and Xbox deserves it. Don't get me wrong. We're not here to try to protect them or something. But you even have the people like Christopher Dring, who is very pro Sony. It's very obvious. And these guys have come out, and the negativity is not, I wouldn't say it's surprising. It's just depressing after a second. But it's good too, because we also get to see you all for who you are. There's no dancing around you being what we see you as. And Christopher Dring found out firsthand because he made an article after Brad Smith did what he did, and he held the paper up at the conference after speaking for 45 minutes, him, Phil, and the team. And he held the letter up saying, hey, this is the letter here, the contract. I'm ready. Sony, as soon as you're ready, let's get this done. He took that and made an article saying, he called it the ongoing absurdity of Microsoft's bid to buy Activision and Blizzard. He says, so here's my meanderings over the latest developments. There was a lot of fluff and spin, but Microsoft may have done enough to convince EU regulators. Now, they say that. He says that there, and at least in the tweet. But if you go through his tweets, there are a lot of our Hooved brothers saying things to him, and he's just letting Microsoft have it left and right. Just negativity. He called it Trumpian in how Brad Smith did what he did. And it was obvious. It was an obvious dig. And no matter how you feel politically about Trump isn't beloved by everybody, and for a lot of different reasons. So he meant that as a dig at Microsoft and at Brad Smith, who did what he did with the letter. And as funny as it was to many of us, it was somewhat innocuous. It wasn't some evil thing that he did to hold that letter up. Does anybody here, do any of you guys still remember, this is how you share games from PlayStation? Do you remember that?
Of course we do.
Yeah, the
Everywhere.
false
Yeah.
advertising of how you
They
share games.
praised that. They praised
False
that. You all remember
advertising.
that, right? And it was hilarious. I'll give PlayStation credit where it's due. That was hilarious. You'll never see them be that negative to Sony if they do something like that. They weren't negative.
Of course.
They praised it. But when Microsoft does anything, be it Brad Smith, be it Lulu, suddenly, I expect decorum And which leads me to the other guy. It's another guy named Patrick Klepek, who is a reporter with Waypoint. He made a tweet and said extremely normal behavior by everyone, and he tweeted not only Lulu but our good brother J Rock and a few other Xbox people, and put them in his tweet. And he, putting them down and so on and so forth. Well, then he was caught up by other people, and that's the beautiful thing about the internet. People will find what you said and bring it right back up into you and hit you with the "this you." So they hit him with the "this is what he said" on a previous tweet some years back in 2017. In fact, he said, "There's a reason I let my kid use my Xbox One controller as a pacifier today. I haven't turned it on in months." Even he is negative toward Xbox, but had the nerve to try to lambaste, if you will, Lulu and others saying what they said today. So Lulu, of course, went on the offensive and called him out, called out Christopher Dring, who was insulting her, and another gentleman, and I'm going to kind of end it on this name, Derek Strickland. Derek Strickland is from Tweet Town, and he had a tweet where he was talking about he expects decorum and professionalism, and Lulu doesn't have it, and all these other things, to which she replied, "I love it when they tell you how you should speak and how you should represent yourself on my own personal account. This isn't a business account," so on and so forth. Lulu was letting them have it left and right. Mind you, he claims that it was amusing what he saw with the memes and things like that, but he thinks professionalism is important. To which many people, including myself, got at him. And I said, it's amusing that you like the memes, yet you made an entire thread. He made an entire thread, by the way, on Lulu, speaking on so-called decorum and professionalism only when it concerns somebody associated with Microsoft. That's odd to me.
She also a shit poster.
Yeah, she also responded and said, "I talk like a person. I don't mind if that's unusual. If you're looking for formal pronouncements on synergy and human-centric solutions powering the future or whatever, then I'm sorry, I can't do it." Also with Christopher Dring, he completely misquoted her. Or he didn't misquote her. He set up the timing so as to make it look very wrong on her part.
Yeah,
to put her in the wrong.
Right.
She responded.
She corrected his ass.
She did.
Yeah, she corrected his ass on a bunch of stuff.
She did. She responded with, "Hi, Christopher Dring, your DMs aren't open. But would you mind please correcting this? I appreciate how important you make me sound, and you have a right to your opinions. Dunk's a fair game in my role, but I definitely did not tweet during the hearing. Perhaps confusion due to time zones." And the paragraph in question was, "Meanwhile, the company's EVP of Corporate Affairs and CCO Lulu Cheng Mersvi, fresh from their interview with Axios, tweeted this meme out during yesterday's hearing, just to stress this is an executive vice president at one of the biggest and most powerful entertainment companies in the world." Basically trying to completely dunk on her. And that lacks integrity. He later on tweeted, "Sorry, I must have, sorry about that. I clearly can't count backwards. But dude, you're a journalist, and your word is your integrity when you're a journalist. And even to some degree as podcasters and YouTubers, I'll also say that our word is our integrity as well. And we do try to stay integrous. You can't always get everything right, but as a journalist who's writing an article and not speaking into a mic, you've got the time to fact check. That's your job as a journalist. You need to fact check your article before you release it. And realistically, you can pull up, I deal with time zones on a daily basis. Umbra can attest to this. And I'm always making sure I've got the right time zones and everything's on point. I don't always get it right, but I'm not a fucking journalist. Like, this dude completely lacks integrity. Like,
I think Lulu Cheng is a breath of fresh air, and she's used she is an executive vice president of Activision Blizzard, so she is up there. But I love that she's throwing memes out there. I love that she's throwing shade. I think that the corporate world could use a lot more of that. I mean, I loved the video of "This is how you give games to people on PlayStation." I love things like that because it opens them up, shows that they're human, shows that it's not all business, shows that they can still laugh at each other and have a funny side. And look, the more of this she does, the better for me.
Yeah,
I agree 100%. And the thing is, too, that the one thing about everything that she said is that this is what it all comes down to me, right? Because like you mentioned, Riskit, I'm big when it comes to integrity as well. everything she has tweeted about has been nothing but facts. So if the other side that is against this is too sensitive to hear these facts, then you can mute her, because that's the problem here. If she was tweeting things that weren't factual, and she was making things out of thin air, then that would be all fine and dandy. But she's not doing that. What she's putting down is facts, and I think that that's what's cutting them deep. It's because they don't know how to come back from that. And to be honest with you, with what Umbra was saying, just showing the bias, right? I got completely sidetracked from just the whole gaming journalism back during the Xbox One generation, because we all agree, everybody knows it's in the history books. It was a horrible generation for Xbox, right? We all know that. We can all unanimously agree. However, the dogpiling on every single thing, single game coming out, it was just something that I completely just, you know what? I'm not even enjoying my games. Like, I'm paying too much attention to stuff like this. So I just gotta mute this stuff for now. And it was such a fresh of breath, a fresh air to hear podcasts like the first one that made me come back to podcasters just like yourselves, Boom and Double Barrel Gaming. Where the opinions were from the gut, shooting from the hip, and whether I agreed with them or not, it was still an honest, not robotic, not corporate, not agenda-driven opinion, just like you guys have on the show, right?
Well, that said, John, as well. I mean, he wears, and I think he says these exact words. Boom wears his bias on his sleeve, right? Just like Hargeet, I do, Jedi, Umbra, and you as well.
I gotta point out, why do you say my name like that?
Did I mess up on that? Umbra.
It was funny because PTK Lamb does it too. He'd be like, Umbra. I'm like, who the hell is Umbra?
Umbra. My bad. I said Umbra.
It only caught me when Riskit started doing it. I'm like, oh, Riskit is funny.
But you're 100% right? These guys, they make a livelihood just of writing what you expect to be. Hey, these are the facts of the press conference today. This is what's ahead, and this is what's coming. Instead, it's all opinion based. Like, oh my God, look at Microsoft sitting on their high horse. Brad Smith making himself look like a clown out here, and it's like, dude, like, come on, guys, like, what are we doing here?
So, I mean, like, this isn't something I wouldn't anticipate, right? The media bias is based on the fact that PlayStation is the dominant platform, right? In Europe, it's so dominant that if you're not talking about PlayStation, you're not talking to gamers. That's really just the way it is, right? So the bias is kind of implicit. It's kind of just there and needed. The reckoning that's coming, though, that's the part that's interesting, right? This is changing the game. They're recognizing it in their subconscious, and they don't like it. It's going to require them to be uncomfortable, right? Because they've been sucking up to Sony, and they've been bad-mouthing and bashing Xbox for so long. And now they really can't do that because it's about to flip. They can't really just take Microsoft as a dummy. They have to pay attention now. They're going to have way too much power in the gaming world to just ignore, right? So this is an interesting time for them. They just have to kind of suck it up and deal with it. But it will be a challenging time for them to figure this out, right? So I'm not surprised by this. I've seen media bias across the board. Doesn't matter what you talk about, whatever area, there's always bias. There's the anti-Windows or anti-Mac. There's the right or left in politics. It's all over the place. There's all sorts of bias everywhere, right? It just is what it is, right? So it doesn't surprise me. The market leader has been Sony, right? The other part of this is Nintendo, and there are some people very pro Nintendo as well. That happens. But Nintendo has been kind of under the Sony thing. The Sony flagship has been there, and that's where all the media has to be, right? And if they don't, and this is stuff we've been finding out now, if you don't bow to Sony, you don't get to play, right? They will not let you get access. So that is something that Sony has been doing. It's taught these media companies to say, even if we don't agree with it, we must say Sony good and Xbox sucks, because that way we get access to the things we need to write our articles and make our money, right? Mm-hmm. So it is what it is. this is about to flip, but it's going to be an interesting challenge for them to go through. We'll see how Sony reacts, right? Because as Sony retracts, as it doesn't have as much market share, it's still going to be dominant, and it's still going to try to assert itself. But media companies might say, well, too bad. I can make money by writing articles about Xbox now
Well,
because look
it just
at the
permeates
amount
though.
of stuff they're putting in the
You're
market,
absolutely right. It just
right?
permeates
So-
throughout the gaming world though. I mean, I think even Jeff Keighley piped in here and said, you know,
Yeah.
are we
I
gonna
can't believe he tweeted that.
are we gonna
Like,
get
really, dude?
are we gonna get
Just
these
shut up.
games at price parity? It's like, oh my god,
Like,
that's your response.
whatever, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I did respond to and shout out to Sarah Fanny Schmeller, the latest PlayStation catfish, and I look forward to seeing him get exposed. But I did tweet out that man, dude, like the pendulum is going to swing, and you really sort of it's. There's no danger in this for them though, because I did sit back and have a good think about it. And Microsoft hasn't been traditionally the company that punishes those who don't talk them up or who talk badly about them. They just don't do that. So there's no danger in this, but the pendulum will swing. And look, we as fans, I don't think we'll forget. And we're gonna, there's gonna be new fans coming into the ecosystem. People are gonna make choices as their kids grow older. We're gonna get a gaming console. Which one are we gonna get? You know what I mean? You're creating hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of new fans. Every couple of, every generation, and this generation is going to create that. And so, you're going to have a whole.
Riskit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're right. You're right. You go for it.
Yeah. So to that point, we've kind of got a few leaks now about an upcoming console from Nintendo, right? The CMA kind of let slip some of the things that are happening. That console apparently will be able to compete in the AAA space. And if it can, with Nintendo's library of games and a console that actually will compete with PlayStation and Xbox, look out, PlayStation. Nintendo is the current leader, and that could very well be the case with the next console, and you no longer are the market dominant force that you think you are. Nintendo's always been there. They just didn't want to compete with Sony, and now it looks like just by the happenstance of technology, right? The next thing comes out, it just will be able to play most of the AAA games, right? So it doesn't have to compete on the, be overpowered and not profitable at launch. They can still do it and still be profitable at launch and release something that is going to actually be able to compete. And when that happens, it's going to be very interesting.
I hope a reckoning is coming. These
Right?
guys are NPCs. These guys are bots at this stage. They are programmed a certain way. Sony has programmed them. I hope you're right. I hope a reckoning is coming, but I can't see it. Honestly.
What's interesting?
I don't see how. Why
what's
not?
interesting though is like what Hargeet, what you pointed out is that Nintendo's definitely going to have that Pro Switch coming out, I suppose, next year or so, or later this year, it seems.
Well, Umbra, I hope you know I was privy to those CMA records, and it's actually the Wii U 2. Just so that you know.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Well.
Wii U 2.
It's going to fall flat on its face like the first one. No, but
probably going to be a Switch 2 or something like that. But yeah,
definitely
for
a
sure,
Switch
for
2.
sure.
But I was going to add to that. Remember, Sony discounted Nintendo, basically hand waving.
Oh my God, dude, their words. Oh my God, they're going to come and bite them.
It is. It already did.
Aren't they the exercise machine thing?
Yeah, right. Cardboard. But what they did is Microsoft already used it against them. So Brad Smith pointed out the discrepancies between what's the word I'm looking for? Between percentages of the market that's owned by Microsoft versus Sony. And in Europe, it's 80-20 in favor of PlayStation. Japan, 96-4 in the favor of PlayStation. Globally, 70-30 in favor of PlayStation. And end of 2022 sales, of course, 69-31 in favor of PlayStation. So, and people were like, well, how is it so and so? What about Nintendo? That's the point. They excluded Nintendo from this and only mentioned PlayStation to Microsoft based off what Sony said. And that's that Nintendo wasn't a part of that makes.
How are you a regulator and you don't see that as a problem? I mean,
they have to.
It's right there.
Like they're paid off. That's why I said it. Yeah, that's why I said I feel like there is some lobbying going on heavy, because there's no way you can see that and be like, oh no, Microsoft kids, they're in the wrong.
Look,
mean, they just
conspiracy theory
destroyed that.
time.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna do my best. Everborn here, conspiracy theory time. Honestly, I think that these regulating bodies pulled Microsoft to the side. Not too recent. They said, look, guys, as long as you share, we're gonna. This shit's gonna this shit's gonna pass with flying colors. Let's put on the show on here for the media or whatever, and let's just get this deal done. Because honestly, it doesn't make any sense for this deal for them to say no. They would. What excuse would they come up with to justify that they turned down the deal?
Well,
The only
Wolf,
one
here's the
logically that
thing.
I can think of is you're Microsoft. Sorry, you can't buy it. That's it.
Here's the
That is
thing.
the only thing
Here's
they
the
did.
thing with it making sense and why this has gone on for so long, much to everyone's chagrin. If it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. And I think it was King David that sort of mentioned this the other day. I was listening to on Boom Show, but I've also been it's common sense, right? You're pushing
Old
a
school DJ Quick line right there.
you're putting a $70 billion dollar deal across the table. If you don't think the government's going to reach out and take their share, you've got to be
Yeah, they're
crazy.
gonna come after it. I mean, that's fine.
That's true.
And you know,
That's
like
fine.
what
Yeah.
Umbra was saying about the one of the newspapers calling it a Trumpian move. You know what? Why not? Why shouldn't they be like this is a company that has enough money to actually go put $70 billion down about the value of Sony's in its entirety and say we're buying this. Right? Why not puff your chest? Why the heck not? Right?
Mhm.
So if they're doing that, good for bloody them. And like everybody else can just look at it. But the thing that you came up with, John, this is very interesting as far as like how they destroyed Sony's narrative by taking Nintendo and putting Call of Duty on it. Now you can't even say that Nintendo can't play Call of Duty. No. It's gonna be on the Switch. Not
You know
only the
what?
next console. It
makes me think of
on the
Nintendo's own
Switch.
slogan, Hargeet. Now you're playing with
Awesome.
power. Now you're
Exactly.
playing with power. I love it.
I
Yeah,
love
man.
it. It's
Look,
great.
Absolutely. It's good to see Microsoft sort of step to the plate and play a little bit of hardball. We were all hoping they would, and I think we're seeing that now. But I do want to move on because this is a topic that we had to cover, and we have covered ad nauseum as this whole thing is going on. Hopefully this closes up. I'm hoping in the back end April minimum, if not March. Hopefully not June or July. But hopefully it does come to a close soon. But guys, if you're enjoying the conversation, please hit the like button. If you are new here, hit the subscribe button. Really helps us out. As we move into the next topic, it's a bit of an interesting one that a lot of people probably haven't picked up on. But the Ukraine government has called the developers of Atomic Heart toxic and has reached out to Microsoft and PlayStation to ask them to pull it from their stores. They said that we urge them to limit the distribution of this game in other countries due to its toxic potential data collection of users and the potential use of money raised from game purchases to conduct a war against the Ukraine. We also want to emphasize that the game developers have not publicly condemned Putin's regime and the bloody war that Russia has unleashed against Ukraine. Now, this is politically charged, and we're going to try to stay away from the more political sides of it if we can. However, I will say this. Anyone who speaks up against Putin seems to disappear or die in a horrible fashion. There is that threat. These developers, whether they're in the country, and they are in the country, or outside of the country, can be reached by Putin. They can be reached by that regime. They have families and people that they care about. And to me, I would not be speaking out against Putin publicly. Especially on such a large platform such as gaming. It's a thing that reaches, over 3 billion people on the planet. I don't see Putin being very happy about that. This also sort of brings it back to, and I'm going to go to the panel on this as quickly, and we're going to cover this one very quickly because I don't want to get too political. This also reaches back into the Hogwarts controversy surrounding Hogwarts Legacy due to the controversy that surrounded that. I won't go into detail on it, but just because you're playing a game doesn't mean you're supporting a regime. Doesn't mean in my view, this is my personal opinion, I don't think it means that you're supporting a point of view or an action, if you like. I just don't see it as, I don't see these guys feeding Putin's war against the Ukraine. It's just, I don't think it's a thing. And I find this really odd that the Ukraine has stepped into the gaming space to condemn the game. There was some rumors that they were initially funded by the Russian government. But again, I still don't see this funding a war and being the tipping point. And so to me, it's just, yeah, I'm playing a game. I'm not supporting regime. I'm going to go to you, Umbra, and see. And I know you have spoke about this recently on another podcast, but this sort of came to light and put more of a conversation behind it. So, how do you feel about Atomic Heart now? Do you think they should pull it from stores?
Yes, get rid of it. No, of course not. Like, the thing about it is, and I do want to be sensitive to the people there. I get it 100%. It's much in the same vein as Hogwarts, right? We understand the feelings behind those who feel affected by a rolling in that case, and those obviously Ukraine being a much more serious situation because of the ongoing war between them and Russia. But even if you were to say, well, some of their money and funding is going back to Russia, they're likely going to get maybe a few million sales of this, if that much. If that much. I don't even know if it'll be that much because it's in Game Pass.
Mm-hmm.
But let's just say a few million. Russia makes billions in dealing with other foreign like countries and such, and shipping things to them and all these other things. If anything is going to fund them, it would be that, not this. This is small crumbs compared to anything else. And that's not to say, well, it shouldn't matter because it's only given so little. But it's also to point out, these people, we don't know them. We don't know what they stand for. It's not like they can come out and say, well, we are against the war. We all know. I'm not even going to go into detail because we know it. We know what would happen to them. We know what would happen to their families. It's very likely they're anti-war. Very likely, just like those who worked on Hogwarts, likely are inclusive and so on and so forth. I mean, the game speaks for itself. When you play it, you can see these things in it, and they don't do that just because. They do that because it's what they believe. And this game doesn't even touch on anything that touches anything near. It actually goes against the autocratic like regimes and such like that with Russia or dictatorships and whatever the case may be and things of that nature. It's unfortunate that it's been brought into this, but I'll just say this and close. I'm not stopping playing this game. I'm not stopping playing Hogwarts or anything of the nature. I'm going to separate this art from these real life circumstances because the people that's involved making it have not come out in the support of Russia that I know of, and have not demeaned the Ukrainians. So that's where I stand at it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, this is a satirization of Russia, and it sort of warns against the dangers of. And also, just because you haven't been outspoken doesn't mean you support. They haven't spoken for or against. And so I don't think you can really assume their stance at all. Hargeet, what did you think of this? I know you just recently found out about it. Did you find this a little bit
These things
crazy?
are just so nuts. Okay, so for those who really care about this, stop eating food because most of the fertilizers come out of Russia. Stop making any building because most of the steel in the world comes out of Russia. Half the oil that goes to Europe comes out of Russia. Let's just shut that down. Why don't we do that? No, I mean, the stupidity in these statements. Seriously, the Russian people are human beings, and they have every right to make stuff and sell it. They have every right to put their content out there. You're going to take every movie that has any Russian composer-based music in it. You're going to just kill it? Go for it. Like, seriously, this kind of stuff is dumb, and it needs to stop. People are people. They do their work. Governments are governments. They do their work. Governments can do bad things. Our government does a crap ton of bad things around the world. And if you want to start going down that path, then take everything out, right? You don't buy your PlayStation because that's based out of here too. You don't play your Nintendo because half of that's based out of here too. You don't play your Xbox. You don't play your PC. You don't go on a Mac. You don't like everything. You're gonna do that? Go ahead. Good luck. It's a stupid thing to do. People are people. You need to deal with the developer. Now, if that development team had done something egregious, like say Kotick, right, who's a slave driver, fair enough. You can say, I don't want to engage with that company because they don't meet my moral values. Fair enough, right? You can do that. But to say a development studio that happens to be based in a country that's doing something you don't like, yeah, stop it. I'm just not interested in that crap. I really hate how we hurt the people, right? They're not the ones doing this, right? It's the regime doing it, right? Is that like the same thing are all Iranians bad people? Like, are all Iraqis or Syrians or whatever North Koreans? Like, this kind of thing just really bugs me. It's stupid, and we have to think beyond that. We shouldn't be saying these are human beings that we should just hate because they happen to live in a country. That's just a bad place to be, right? These are our brothers and sisters all the way out there dealing with this crap, living under fear. We should be more empathetic, not, throwing stones at them. I can understand Ukraine's government.
We know the
But
vast
that's as far as I could ever
majority
go.
We know the vast majority of Russian people are against this war. We
Yeah.
just know that they can't actually be
The vast
outspoken
majority
about
of
it.
people,
because,
period, are against war. Who wants war?
Puts
It
them
sucks.
it puts them in actual danger. Their families in actual danger if they come out and speak against the Russian government.
It's very interesting because there are so many people that are families across the border, right? There are many Russians who have Ukrainian family members and many Ukrainians who have Russian family members.
True.
And they're just
I
torn
think it's
apart.
a quarter.
Yeah.
A quarter of
It's
the
just
population
it's so
of
crazy.
Ukraine has
And-
Russian family.
Yeah, it's nuts, right? And so this is not easy stuff. And like, I don't know. I don't like going after people like that. It's really stupid to me.
No,
And
I
you know
agree.
what?
I agree with everything that's. Go ahead.
Games are incredibly expensive to make, and not a lot of the time they're going to fail. If they ended up getting money from the Russian government to make this game, then so be it. I like the fact that governments are funding video games. It means we get more video games. It means the developer has to take less risks when making video games. I don't grudge Monkfish for doing that whatsoever. And you know what? I'm going to play Atomic Heart when I'm done with Hogwarts Legacy, and from everything I'm seeing of it, I'm really, really going to enjoy it. Kudos to Monkfish. I think they've made a great game. I understand where the Ukrainian government is coming from. I mean, I understand the hardship that their country is going through, but Monkfish is not the source of that problem. They shouldn't be held accountable for what the Russian government is doing.
Yeah,
This
absolutely.
reeks of, and I agree with everything everybody said. I think everybody has handled it, beautifully, and honestly, it just I share everybody's sentiments here. And the thing is that when you even hear the soldiers themselves saying that they don't support the war, I think that's a big telling story of this whole dilemma, right? But the thing is that to me, the Ukrainian government here, I guess, is piggybacking on this whole Hogwarts media fiasco that's been going on in the last couple of months, and I guess they figured, hey, this game is coming out of this Russian sector. They're going to benefit from it. Let's attack that so that goes down, and everything that has to do with this country that's attacking us is seen in a bad light. And it's just, again, being sensitive to the whole thing and being sensitive to everybody's feelings on things. I'm not a big fan of if I don't support something, I'm just not a fan of looking at Hargeet, for example, and saying, hey, if you buy that, you're a bigot. Hey, if you buy this, you're this. No, I make
Right.
my own choices with the money that I want to spend and the companies that I want to support. It's up to me. That's my personal choice. And the last thing you need to do is just push your personal beliefs onto others, because that never ends well.
Mhm.
That will never end well.
Agreed.
Yeah, absolutely, and it seems to be a thing that if you don't this, then you are this, and that's not necessarily the case. Well, it's never
Exactly.
really the case. If you don't this, then you are this. I think
It's a manipulation tool. It's a
Mhm.
manipulation tool, Riskit, to make you feel bad about, for spending, for example, money on this game and stuff, and just wanting to play. You just want to play a game. You're a fan of gaming. That you're not even thinking of a war or anything, and it's just a manipulation tool to
Right.
make you look in bad light.
'Cause typically we're playing these games to escape. It's escapism. So yeah, we're not looking at thinking about this war. That's the last thing we want to think about.
Mhm. Absolutely, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with a little bit of escapism. That's why gaming is so big. Anyway, it is a politically charged topic, and I think we've really covered it pretty well. But I mean, if you feel a way about a particular game for a particular reason or a particular thing for a particular reason, that's all good. You can speak about it. and you can let your opinion be known. But I don't think it's the right thing to push your values onto other people. That just never really ends well for anyone.
I think Resident Evil 4 is great, and Riskit is not a big fan. That's okay.
Yeah, but you
That's
should
perfectly
definitely
okay.
agree with me, and
You're
I'm
right.
right.
I don't.
Speaking
No,
of
you're not
Resident
right on
Evil.
this. I'm sorry.
Look, we will move on to the next topic. And guys, please hit that like button if you're loving the show. If you are new here, please hit the subscribe button. We go live normally at 8 p.m. EST every Friday. We will be pre-recording every second show until further notice, but we do go live every second show, so jump in the chat, check us out. We'll be in there in the chat for this show as well, so say good day to us while we're there. A bit of bad news, unfortunately. There's been a little bit of bad news sort of happening around. This sort of just dropped last night. The founder and head of Tango Gameworks, he's also the original creator of Resident Evil, Shinji Mikami, is leaving Tango Gameworks. This comes off the back of Hi-Fi Rush landing and basically sticking that landing. It got a resounding positive reviews and from all around Twitter, positive vibes. So I found this a little bit odd, and we sort of had a discussion. He's had a career that's gone for about 33 years. He's worked on a ridiculous amount of notable games like Dino Crisis, like I said, Resident Evil. He did have a hand in Resident Evil 4, which I'm obviously disappointed in him for that entry.
Don't forget Vanquish, Devil May Cry. I mean, the
May
list goes
Cry,
on and on.
Yeah, he's had a pretty decorated career. Is this his retirement? Is what my sort of thoughts go to. Is he retiring? Is he moving to another studio? What's next for Shinji Mikami? And Phil Spencer did say we wish him best for what's next. And that's very interesting.
Jim Ryan snatched them up for sure.
Man, if he goes to Sony, I am going to be pissed if he just I'm with Sony now. No. That would look bad. I'm gonna be honest. That would look terrible if he just so happens to leave Tango, which is, by the way, was his own startup studio after leaving Capcom to go to Sony. I would be disgusted.
I don't like this at all. I think this is way too close. Now, I know this is going to sound bad, but it's way too close to the acquisition for me. This is his baby. Tango was his baby. He went there to do his own thing, to have an independent studio. I know that they were picked up by Bethesda, but they had their own autonomy with Bethesda. This screams to me that he wants to escape. He wants to do his own thing again. He's only 57 years old. He's not going to retire. This man is in love with gaming. He has been in this industry for 33 years. He has had his hands on some of the greatest games that have ever been made. He's changed the industry. I just don't like this whatsoever. I hope I'm wrong. I hope Microsoft and Xbox aren't micromanaging Ghostwire. Tango Software. I hope they're not pushing them towards making a certain type of game. I think rumor has it that they are making Evil Within 3. That would be really cool to me. Going off the success of Hi-Fi Rush, do they want to go a different direction now? I really don't know. It'll be really interesting to see what his next move is. Whatever he does, it will be fantastic. I think the Evil Within is criminally underrated as a game. It is fantastic. I didn't particularly love Hi-Fi Rush, but Umbra played it 4-5 times. So Tango making some great games, making some great moves at the moment. I haven't played Ghostwire Tokyo yet. I do want to get my hands on that and check it out. But good luck to whatever Shinji does in the future, because
unless he goes to PlayStation,
great for
of
the
course.
industry.
Yeah.
Even if he goes to PlayStation.
Yeah, and the thing is, I heard something the other day on the Iron Lords podcast. I'm sure you guys must have listened when Cliffy B was on. He said something that caught my ear, and that's that there's not a lot of rock stars left in the gaming industry. When you think of the Kojimas of the world and the Cliffy B's and etc., it could just be Jedi Knight. To be honest with you, that some people just don't want to work under the structure of a big organization. They just perform better. They just feel, I guess, more free. I have a buddy myself that, you know, he started up his own company, and like he's told me many times, John, I'll never go back to working under someone, because you just get that taste of freedom and stuff like that. So it could just be as simple as that it's just someone that just wants to just, you know, be on their own, make their own decisions, deal with the hardships of the finance and all that good stuff. Because when it comes to your concern of, is Microsoft kind of micromanaging, that kind of goes against everything that we've heard. You know, it
Yeah,
kind of goes against everything that we've
agree.
heard, that Microsoft is you know, open to listen to, hey, what games do you guys want to make? We're not going to make you make a, you know, the Evil Within 3 if you don't want to, etc. So I don't really think that that's where this is coming from. To me, it looks like this is just a dude that's a rock star, and he just wants to do his own thing, and
Yeah, I
maybe
get
start
that,
up
but I
another
Kind
don't
of
company.
think
bow out.
people understand the loss that Shinji is going to have now. When
Major loss.
Microsoft picked up uh,
Yeah, you're
Tango
right.
software, I think that everybody thought that finally they have a foothold in that Japanese market, which has been so elusive for so long. And depending on how well they work with Tango, that really could have opened up so many doors for them. If
You're
Shinji
not wrong.
said that
Yeah.
Microsoft is working really well, I love what they're doing, then it
Mhm.
really would have opened up a lot of doors for Microsoft. This is a tremendous loss to them.
Just to
You're
add
So
to
not
the
that,
wrong.
Pete,
go
You're
just
for
to
it.
not
add
wrong.
to that, sorry, Hargeet. Just going to say, just to add to that, you all remember at the last showcase last year, Phil talked with him, you know, in his dialect and in language, obviously in Japan, it's as terrible as it probably came off. And you know, Shinji-san and all that, Mikami-san and all of that, and he, the thought at least for all of us was that yeah, Shinji is going to be that man to help bring in these other devs and all of that, and probably be like a, you know, Bethesda East or something like that. That kind of seemed like that's the way they were going with that. Now, that's not to say they still can't with John. I'm guessing John Johannes is going to be the one to take over since Shinji is leaving, because John just put out Hi-Fi Rush, which I do absolutely love. It was my game of the
And he
year
did Evil
before
Within
Hogwarts.
2 as well, right? I think.
Exactly, and he was,
Yeah,
I think,
he
a
did.
co on that one. So it is interesting. I'm guessing he's going to take over. It could just be the case that Shinji is like, hey, we had a great launch here. It was well received. This was it for
Time
me.
for me
And
to go.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it was stated that he would do one more game and then retire. Although this seems kind of cheating here because he didn't really make Hi-Fi Rush. That was John
You
Johannes.
know,
So
it's under
I
him
don't
though,
know.
right?
It is. It's still credited to Shinji.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering maybe if that was the case. But
I agree with
I'll
that. I think that's
yeah,
all it is. Like he's just
it could
tired,
be.
dude. Like as much like making games, especially crunch, it gets on you at some point and you're like, I'm done. Yeah, it sounds like it's young 57. Dude, he's getting old. And
Yeah.
like I just want to take my retirement money and just go veg, right? And he can go play
Hmm.
games instead of making them. I think that's what this is, but we'll see. I don't know if he'll go do something else. It would be a lot easier on him if he just like goes and retires, like literally just goes and retires.
Hargeet, I'm
So
sorry to cut you. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I just got like a vision. Herman Holtz wants to announce that. Can you imagine a PlayStation blog post
Man,
comes out?
I don't even
yeah,
want
yeah,
to imagine that. If that happens,
Oh man,
I'm
that
telling
shit
you,
will
I'm going to be
suck.
pissed. I'm going to
That'll
be pissed
sting.
because
yeah, yeah.
it
I
makes me
mean,
That'll
think of
sting.
when we
it's
had the
always
initiative and
possible,
then all
but
these people start leaving like that, and the guy went right back to Insomniac. I was like, you know
yeah.
what?
You son
Sorry
of
to
a
cut you
I
off.
don't know.
bitch.
He was running his own
Right.
show, so it seems like that was the ultimate level you're going to get anyways, right? On top of that, you now have Microsoft money to back you. You really couldn't get in a better situation. So like I really do think he's just retiring, and he's been hinting at this for a bit, right? That he's kind of done. His prime was 30s, and
Yeah.
after that, it becomes harder and harder to make games. So in his 40s and 50s, he's like, dude, like I need other people to lead this stuff.
Yeah,
And
I'd
that's
It's
what's
just,
been
I'd
happening.
agree
it's
with
just
that. If you look at
legendary loss, though.
the
I agree with Pete on
changes
that one.
that the gaming industry has gone through over the years, and what he has probably seen from the time of him, from him starting in the industry, which would have been, while it's in its infancy, to now, and the difficulty of putting together a AAA title in this day and age. Yeah, I could understand, like, with that behind you, and then looking ahead in front of you. That's a difficult, each game you're looking at, you've got to set out a minimum of over, 6 years that's 6 years of your life you're committing to. So I can completely, I completely agree with you, Hargeet, and I sort of do hope that's the thing. But I'm with you, Umbra. If he goes to PlayStation, man, was nothing but a piece of shit. Nah.
You damn pony. We knew you were one all along. Yeah, I hope that's not the case, man. I really don't. I hope that doesn't happen. But like, I'm disappointed only because I assumed, and I think many of us did, that he was going to be kind of this beacon to bring in more major Japanese names. And like, it's funny, John, you brought up the whole Rockstar thing. Me and Pete and all of us were in a party talking about that the other day. And we were talking about Shinji and Hi-Fi Rush and everything like that. We were all in a discussion about that. And then later on, I saw this. I'm like, how terribly coincidental. But yeah, he's a legend, honestly. And like you said, as far as rock stars and developers go, he is one of them. He's one of those people that's probably on Mount Rushmore.
They still have one. He's going to retire at some point too.
Yep.
Todd Howard or God Howard, he's going to retire at some point.
That's true.
That's true.
And another thing that stinks too is that, remember, there, like, even the community was hyping up that if Microsoft did purchase oh God, what's the name? I'm sorry, of the publisher. I'm blanking on it right now. No, the one that was supposed to make the Dragon game. Sorry.
Platinum.
Shit.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Platinum. That he could kind of, be the person overwatching.
If he joins Platinum, that's worse than joining PlayStation, man. I have nothing but horrific things to say about.
We want Vanquish 2, bro. That's what we want. That's what he wanted to do.
No, but
Platinum, that's what we'll do.
Platinum from being acquired, right?
Yeah.
So
Platinum can eat a bag of dicks, as far as I'm concerned. I hope that studio shuts down.
That should be on every platform. This bullshit that it's only on Nintendo.
Yeah, agreed. Look, we've had an amazing show. That is the last topic of the day. It's been interesting doing a pre-record. I've kind of liked it. It's a lot less stressful on this end, I got to tell you.
Hey, Risk, before you go though, Risk, let me throw out these last things. We're not going to discuss it. I just want to announce it since it was kind of breaking. Apparently, Mortal Kombat 12 will be launching this year. It was leaked in the I guess a conference call and WB Discovery earnings. So Mortal Kombat 12 is actually coming out this year, everybody.
Nice.
That and of course just Hogwarts. Hogwarts has sold already
12 million,
bringing in a ridiculous 850 in revenue, and they have a show.
Wasn't there a game that sold
HBO Max
11 million in 6
Elden Ring.
Yeah,
Elden Ring
I was told that was supposed to be very good.
Elden Ring has sold 20 million copies. 20 million for what was supposedly a niche game. So
that was Bayonetta 3, right? Bayonetta 3.
That would be God of War Ragnarok.
Yeah. You come right back full circle, Hargeet.
Right? How long did it take to get to 12 million?
Yeah,
what was the number of 2 weeks? 2 weeks.
And the key word, no bundles.
Where do you think they'll be?
No bundles, Hargeet. That's another thing.
No bundle. No several.
Oh God! Don't mention the bundles. They'll be coming after my neck on Twitter again. Guys, we do have to wrap the show. It's been an absolutely amazing show. Those of you who have watched us, I'm putting this up, I believe, as a premiere, so everyone can sort of check it out. And you guys will be able to jump in the chat live, so that'll be quite interesting to see how this rolls out. Hopefully, I don't fuck it up. But John Wolf, you've been absolutely amazing. We really appreciated you guys, both of you guys coming on. John, first time on the show. Really appreciated you coming through, man. Let people know where they can find you, what you'd be up to. Also, we'll add, if you want to find anyone from the show, except for Hargeet, because he hides on Xbox, I will have all the links down the bottom. Oh, actually, I'll have Game On Daily's links down the bottom. And you guys can head there and check them out. But Wolf, what are you up to? What are you going to be playing? What's your week looking like?
Yeah, man, just a busy work week ahead of me, so I'm looking to get some gaming on the weekend. But guys, follow me on Twitter, xJohnWolfx. That's across the board. PlayStation, Xbox, Steam. Hit me up anytime, guys. I'm open to play games and just have good conversations like the ones we had today, guys. You guys are all rock stars, and I honestly appreciate you having me on your show.
Absolutely, man. We really appreciate you coming through, as we do you, Hargeet, Chani. Once again, I know, man, are you cracking the 10 times mark now? I think you're up in the double digits. And we love having you come through with your takes. You've always on point. Thank you for coming through again. Let people know where they can find you, what you'd be up to, what you'd be playing aside from everything.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. And so GameOnDaily.com and then YouTube.com/GameOnDaily. Check out Go Live, 4 p.m. Eastern U.S. time every Saturday. And then I am Xbox Chani is my gamer tag there. I don't have any other social media. And I'll be playing Hogwarts Legacy, that game that beat out God of War Ragnarok and Sarah.
And Hargeet does win the title for being the most generous community member out there, man. So I just want to commend you for that, Hargeet.
Yeah, absolutely is. And you can, I think he's now a member of RDX. I don't know about officially, but unofficially. You can also find him there.
Yeah, it just seems like I am there every week. So yeah, check me out there as well.
Just
And of
want
course,
to point out I've been on there twice now, by the way. Just want to point out I've been on there twice.
That's true.
Now, Pete.
Now, did they introduce you as Umbra or Umbra?
Who was on there
Which one of
first?
the two?
Yeah. And who was on there? Who was on there twice first? Anyway, moving on. Before we argue about where we've been and what we've been doing, Jedi Knight, another fantastic week. Thank you for coming back, giving us your takes. I know that you had a very little sleep, and so you've nailed it. What are you going to be up to this week? What are you be playing? Let the people know where they can find you.
I want to get through Hogwarts Legacy because I did the intro into Atomic Heart, and my God, that game looks beautiful. So, but look, I'm not going to rush Hogwarts. I'm having a great time. I think Wulong comes out this week as well. So the backlog's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It's amazing that there's so many games to play. So I'm not going to complain about that. Wow, did I thoroughly enjoy the discussion today. John, I can't believe we've had 63 episodes and haven't had you on yet, mate. You were amazing today. Hargeet,
thank you, sir.
every time you're on the show, you elevate the conversation. You are
Thanks,
amazing. Man. Your knowledge and your passion and your love for this community, I think, is second to none. Umbra, always good talking to you. And Riskit, you suck, mate.
Yes, and if you want to find Pete on Twitter, you can't because he'll probably give you Twitter AIDS, and he's a 90-year-old that can't use tech. Anyway, moving on. Umbra, another fantastic show. Umbra, another fantastic show. Thanks for coming through every week, man. Giving us your takes. I know that you lost a little bit of sleep getting up for this one as well, so really appreciate you coming through, man. Let people know where they can find you, what you'd be up to, and what's coming up for you next.
Man, you can find me, of course, on Twitter under Infinite Umbra or Umbra Infinite. Either way, you'll find me. And yeah, man, I'm going to be stuck in Hogwarts as well. I should be wrapping it up pretty soon, though. I'm pretty far leveled up and overpowered, actually, but I'm enjoying the hell out of it, like I said. And of course, like you pointed out, Risk, I do have something in the works. And we have our good brother, Wandering Dutch, who is actually working on helping me with the intro and outro for the show, and I believe actually the layout of the show too. So all of that is getting ironed out. I have complete ideas set up with them, easy to work with, super affordable. I appreciate you, Wondering Dutch. Just want to throw that out there, and I think you all will love it how it's put out, and he'll probably have it ready over the weekend for me by Monday, I'm guessing. And yeah, just wanted to say thank you, Hargeet and John, for joining us. John, it's your first time, Hargeet. Like you said, it's probably pushing double digits for you now. I think Pete said it and summed it up very well. So I mean, I don't want to keep blowing your heads up. You all not getting all that from me. No, but much love to you fellas. I appreciate you guys, and we appreciate you for coming through. Obviously, with Risk and Pete, my brothers, you all always bring the heat, and I love talking with you all on games and everything else. So, good show. This is actually a really, really good discussion. It flowed so easily today. Just want to point that out. Yeah, and everybody in the chat, if you're still with us here for this pre-recording, you will see myself and probably Pete and everybody else on the show was jumping in and communicating with you. So don't cut out because it's a pre-recording. Show us love, share it out, and we'll be live again and talking with you all live. So much love.
I'll definitely be there in the chat, chatting with you guys. Honestly, I missed you guys in the chat. I love communicating with you guys throughout the show. Unfortunately, it wasn't possible today, but we'll see you next week.
Yeah. Look, it does sort of suck because that's the thing that I sort of love. I don't get a chance to respond much, but I do see all the comments and the funny shit that goes on in the chat, and I love it. And it makes the show. And so my first response to pre-record was no. But unfortunately, this is sort of where we're at with my job. I will work on that over time. And hopefully in the not too distant future, we can go back to live shows every single week. But until we do, this is how we're going to do it. If you guys want to find me, you can check out the description down below. Please hit the like button, subscribe, and we will see you all next week. Thanks for coming, guys.
Peace, guys.
Later, guys.
Peace.